So let's move on to the next panel, which will tell us a little more about INDIC, about collaboration. Our first panel for today delves into a fantastic dialogue between research, innovation, and practice. The session is going to be moderated by our very dynamic Ms. Sarika Gulyani, Senior Director and Head Technology, Communications, Mobile Manufacturing and Language Technologies. And joining her will be, of course, Dr. Girish Jha and Dr. Atul Ojha, who is joining us virtually. The topic is building India's multilingual digital future through collaboration and innovation. So a few of you had raised your hands. We can continue. And of course, in our networking session, you will be able to meet both the speakers.
So I'll start up. So I'm sure you had a chance to hear Professor Jha in the starting. So he has already made a start with a thing that these are the things which is done, and that's what he stands for. I'll come directly to the question, which I feel, based on the things which you have suggested, Professor Jha, I'll not be repetitive. And then I'll come to you, Mr. Ojha. When we talk about the challenges, we talked about things, we talked about the current scenario. If I start with solution, that's what I think the people out in the room are looking at, that these are the things which are existing. Now, what is the solution to it? So my first question is to both of you, and I'll start with Professor Jha, since you were just talking about the availability of the data. I'll come on the data part separately. What model do you suggest could exist? I mean, I'm talking about a model which could exist for the country, which can really promote the, I would say, industry, academia, collaboration, and a facilitation by the government. So what are the key things you suggest? And that could be replicated. And I also say this in context to, we have been talking about India being kind of leading the global south and providing the AI solutions to the global south. We have heard our Honorable Minister and Secretary talk about it. Keeping that in mind, how do you see it in the long term, as well as, okay, if I want to start immediately in the short term, so how do you see that model working, and what could be the major parameters for this?
Well, I think I had a discussion on the same topic in Niti Aayog a long time back. I don't remember exactly. And then all these issues were discussed, including there were private, Microsoft was also there, other companies were there. And what I suggested them, set up a Section 8 company, and then something like LDC, Linguistic Data Consortium, University of Pennsylvania. Let me tell you, I have been there, I've been the consultant, I have been there to give lectures. What they have, inside the university campus, there's a multi-story building, and top 2-3 floors are given to LDC. And the HOD of the linguistics department is also CEO of the organization. They get all the data requirements from organizations. For example, there was a project of US Defense that was given to LDC, and I did that, creating data in 8 security-sensitive languages, including 6 Indian languages and Pashto and Dari of Pakistan and Afghanistan and other. For example, if the terrorists are speaking in mother tongues passing through sensitive areas, they can be flagged as belonging to some country and can be specially scanned. Now, if there is a data requirement by a company or a government, they can request this body and they can get the data done for them. Now, how they get data done, that's a different question. In India, things will be very different. I just suggested there are 600 plus universities in India, right? And almost all of them have humanities social science departments. So we can connect all of them. There is an Inter-University Acceleration Center, IUAC, right next to JNU. And one of the tasks could be to make sure that this happens across universities and data is created. And data could be created, there should be platforms like ILC. I have a platform where could be, workspaces given to all the universities. They can build data there. Then this data could be annotated using a platform and then exported to some other platforms which can add more tiers of information. So this could be done. Doesn't involve a lot of cost. The government side, wherever there is a requirement of funding, they should be happy to give funding, and I think they are off late providing a lot of money through Bhashini, I guess, and also through Ministry of IT directly, and also DST and other science and technology departments. They give money to get things done. CIL Mesud does some funding for language data. So I think these things should be done progressively, involving people through university. Now another area could be that involving people directly. I remember some time back, a company from Israel had come, Human Voices, that let people speak on mobile phones and we capture data. So let people speak on mobile phones and data can be captured with their permission. So such things can also be, initiated. maybe you can initiate that. Some company can initiate that, tie up with other companies. From government side, okay, there's a lot of incentive, a lot of support, certainly. From academia side, that they should have these collaborative, ventures with universities in India, universities abroad, and then things can be done nicely.
So you suggest pooling of data across universities and creating a common platform where this
Universities
can
don't have data, but they have manpower.
be
They can
manpower,
create
and
data.
so that through them, of course, then it
That
can
would be
done.
easier and cheaper.
Okay, and then you think government should frame up a policy for something of this kind, a kind of for data commons or some national framework or something of those kinds should happen?
Well, there is no such framework as of now.
Yes, there
there
is
are
no.
guidelines, and the guidelines done by the ILCA project could be used. How to collect data that can be used, or they can set up some kind of standard through BIS. This is what the standard is for data collection standard. All of that can be done.
And would that be possible? Because I'm talking about the practical things which we can propose it to the government. In the current scenario, we know Bhashni is existing. While Bhashni comes under METI, and there are multiple initiatives across, which is there. Whether you talk about, I mean, the list can go on. AI Kosha, AI for Bharat, PME Vidya, and the list goes on. Sanchanika. So there's so many things. So even there are interministerial works which is being done. There are ministries which are acting separately, and similarly is the case with the university. So that's the case which we come in, whether you talk about GNU or I talk about any other university in Maharashtra. That's the case which is there. So how to solve that problem is will be my next question. Before that I come to Atulji, I give a time for you to pause and think, because I would love to understand how do you suggest a solution for such a thing where the works are done in silos and a lot of amount of data is available, but still when you talk about the real research which can make a difference is not being able to happen. Atulji, your thoughts on the first point which I asked?
So I agree with Girish sir regarding the university collaboration, because okay, my experience in India and also in Europe, like when we are building the data, specifically I'm talking like text translation or speech translation, and community involvement is most important from my thinking. And as per my knowledge, at the moment we are not well connected from the complete universities. Like in only few universities and IITs, we are focused on they are working. But if you really want to focus on cultural translation and um, more rich linguistic information, I think then definitely we have to go for different universities, different manpower, because they know very well how to translate and how to build. And definitely they don't know how to build the data. And for that purpose, we can train, because if you don't train, then it's a very big problem how you are going to empower the educations and skilled information. That is my view. And yeah, so without universities manpower, I don't think so we can build the data set.
Okay. So, Professor Shah, you just heard Atulji, he talked about universities and manpower and how the data problems exist. So I come back to the question which I originally posed to you. How do you see it happening within the current structure which is existing within the country?
Well, the universities are not very well equipped. All the universities, some major universities are, as Atul is rightly saying. We partnered with 18 universities, and they were all very good, and we had to train them. You're talking about 700 universities in India, and obviously we can train them. We can train the manpower there how to use online systems like we have, and then pull data there. Now, for the government side, I mean, obviously there are so many projects going on in parallel. The ministries, there are a lot of overlaps between ministries. I just give you an example that the education ministry data going to home ministry for Hindi, say for example, and they're building another layer on that, and that data to come back to education ministry will have to have agreement. Otherwise, things will be so there has to be a lot of file work. You give some permission, file moves around, and some staff will write some comment, it will come back to you. So a lot of these issues are there. So yes, there has to be some seamless process in the government to use data of each other ministries. Now, coming back to the universities thing, and then universities are, I guess, I don't have a rough count, but I did a rough count for the Sanskrit students, and there are approximately 12,000 Sanskrit grad students in the 18 universities and 150 departments that we have. If we train them to create data during the 3 months of summer, like in America, they do Summer Institute of Linguistics. Every summer, they train students in creating data. So we can have training sessions in the summer for them in one place. Like if JNU has a big, huge convention center right across my department. I volunteer to do that training part in the summers for all these students. And then they can be trained how to do data, how to create data. And then should be given training using software. The software could be standalone as well as online. Then they can go back and create data. So we have to have something of this kind. Now, government, obviously should be ready to fund such initiatives. So that should be, and they are willing to fund, not a problem. But we need to have, a lot of discussions with the stakeholders in different universities that if they're willing to support this initiative, that kind of thing.
So, see, if we go on by the current figures, like where we had a good appreciation for India when they have jumped up in the Global Innovation Index, we stand around 39 from the previous figures which we were there. So much we are high, which much we have come up. But when we talk about, and that's quoted figures from the, I would say, PSA's office and DST, that when we talk about the contribution to the research with respect to the GDP, our country is much beyond. I mean, you can add to the numbers and correct me if I'm wrong, around 0.6% of the GDP, while if you talk about the countries like our neighbors or the others, they stand between 4 to 5%, or I'll say 2 to 5%. Let's make it like that way. So keeping that in mind, government still talks about, they mentioned that out of that 0.6%, 64% funding is done by the government. And what they are looking at, industry and academia to come up for that research. So when we talk about our thing, when we talk about a multilingual research backed by AI, and when we talk about this, how do you see this situation getting solved, or what role the industry can play and the academia can play? Because the government is at the other side talking about supporting, they're talking about providing data, they're running multiple initiatives, which is, I'm sure, which we have listened, which we had the opportunity to listen yesterday, and then we of course went through your presentation where you mention about multiple things. So keeping that in mind, that's in any case is going on, and we can't expect that the work across the domains will stop. But what we can do is we can propose the models and we can propose the actions which can be taken up, say by industry, say by academia, and of course recommendations to the government to help that to achieve. So how do you suggest that the academia and the industry can further collaborate? And I'll come on the IP issue later. So can collaborate further to promote the research in this area, because there are gaps in the multilingual LLP, which you talked about it, right? So I'm not going to be repetitive on those gaps. You can highlight them, but I would want to know how this can be taken. I mean, what could be the solution towards it? What can be done?
Well, let me come back. Start with your problem that not enough research, good research being done in India. That's correct. Look at the research community in India. The major universities and major IITs. What is the percentage? So 10% of India, they claim they can speak English. In higher education, it would not be more than 2 or 3%. Now you're expecting good research to come from these people, while the majority of India is not even accessed. We are not accessing the talent. Now in India, before we had this English problem in India, obviously we were very high in research. A lot of fundamental things came out of India. Now, we are only accessing 2 or 3% people and expecting good research from them. We need to broad base it, number one. We need to make sure that research is done by non-English educated people also in India. How we do that? We have to, good textbooks have to be there, good education has to be there, all of that has to be there. For example, a 12th pass, a student comes to IIT Delhi, he has done his studies in Hindi medium, he comes to IIT Delhi, he's bombarded with English in the classroom. He goes into depression. A lot of these issues are there. Language medium is very, very important in India. So that has to be solved. Now, government has to continue this initiative of gradually replacing English, in higher education. Now, let's give you a stat. Hindi is spoken by in this country officially more than 50%, but unofficially by 81% in India. Now, if you have a classroom where Hindi medium is used for education, that will have less problems than English, which is understood by 3 or 4% people in the classroom, technically. So we have to make a call. This is a huge, long term. Now, funding the research initiative by government and by the industry, both are important. Now, how can industry fund research? Now, they can have, some. Yesterday, just I was discussing with Adobe that if they can, fund a joint initiative of teaching fonts in the university, and if they do font research funded by some company, that could lead to innovative font designs for any script in India. So the industry can come and fund some specific courses which can lead to some research output tomorrow. For example, if there is a student doing PhD, CDAC had come with the proposal some time back that they lack manpower. So I suppose I propose that why don't you support research of some students, and they will take up topic what you need. So, for example, you want to do some research in machine translation, fill the gap. Come to us, and we give you a student who takes up that topic, does the research in detail, and you fund the scholarship. So that kind of arrangement has to be there. Government is funding a lot of JRFs and SRFs and postdoctoral, but the quality is very bad. Quality is very bad.
So
Why? Because
why can't we have something like a Silicon Valley kind of a concept where the industry academia collaboration works in and as per the requirement, like you mentioned right now, like you had a word with one of the organizations and we talked about a particular fund development. So why can't we have that kind of an approach within our country? What is something which is stopping us from there?
industry academia collaboration is done in major universities in India and major IITs. For example, in JNU, when industry comes in, it's a very easy way to collaborate. In IIT, very easy way to collaborate, but not in the government, not in the minor universities. When I went to government on a deputation, I was hoping that I'll continue with my consultancies, but they say you can't continue here. There's no scope for consultancy in the government. So we have to encourage government to actually have such, for example, I'll give you another example. When FICCI came to JNU, they offered me stock options as the consultancy fee. I told JNU that this is stock options and you can take a share. They said, there's no way I can take a share from stock options. You take cash from them. And next year, the Swift key was purchased by Microsoft. See the loss that would have happened to JNU and myself. So a lot of these things have to be started in India, and government has to be rightly impressed upon to do this. But there is also difficulty. For example, when we wanted to host data, ILCA data, on CDAC server, to be used by people, government did not agree initially. So some secretary wanted to say yes, we will do it, but then suddenly he changed. Someone else came. That happens. If everybody agrees, then we finally get things done, and even then there'll be some problem in the university. University says, no, I can't give you permission. So a lot of these bottlenecks are there in India. We have to resolve it. We have to resolve it to progress. And now with the Prime Minister Modi, he's he means business, and I think he will get things done. And I have first-hand information. The way I've been to some of the meetings, it's very clear that things have to be done professionally. And this is the time where industry can, approach the government with a lot of these innovative ideas to get things done.
Atulji, what's your take on the research side? And once you talk about, because you have an exposure across various data sets, you have across various languages. So want to understand from your perspective, how do you see encouraging research and the industry academia collaboration in that area? You heard Professor Jha talking about it. And I'll also come on to the part, when you talk about it, also keep in mind the low resource languages as well as the sign language. So over to you, your thoughts on the same.
Okay, so from my side, I'm not a policy related person, or I haven't deal this kind of the things. So it is very hard to comment on how to do for the for collaboration in the industry or academia. I can share my experience at least in University of Galway. We have a very clear kind of strategy. We collaborate with industry. We have industry and academia. We like industry, for example, Fidelity is one company. They want to solve some inclusivity language problem. So we submit a proposal, or they send us proposal, and we work for 1 year. Or for few, like Girish sir already mentioned, PhD students fellowship is sponsored by Fidelity. So that can be one approach, but I'm not expert, or I don't have expertise on that point, so I'm not going to discuss this area. But regarding the low resource low resource languages and speech translation, what I have experienced. So I think even we have in India we have a 22 official language and other low resource language. I would always say low language, not a dialect. It can be a controversy, definitely, but from my perspective, like I can give example, like I was doing PhD in JNU, and so I was working on Bhojpuri language, and Bhojpuri that time definitely it was we didn't had any data that time, and what we did we are collecting monolingual data from magazine, from other resources using OCR, and then verify manually, and then parallel data and build the machine translation. So in my opinion, like it's like, okay, in the academia, student can be encouraged focus on their own language and build the resources. That resources can be used for enhancing machine translation or other NLP resources. But regarding the sign language, so this is the one way. Definitely other way, like evaluation campaign, you build the small data set, like using synthetic approach, and then prepare the test set using human intervention, human validated data, and that can help to speed up for the NLP technologies. Otherwise, because one side we have to compete current technologies, and second side is we have to provide qualitative translation or qualitative information. So I think this is the one way we can do that. And yeah, so this is, and regarding the sign language, as per my knowledge, I don't think so. In India, we have much work on sign language, very few, and the reason is I don't know what is the reason, but I think. But okay, I'll give you a solution. But what we can do that quickly. Google has already released some data set, not some, actually, in English, American Sign Language, and British Sign Language. We can take it, all these data, and maybe try to translate in an Indian Sign Language data.
Okay, so I think we have to wrap up. So I'll just go to the Atulji. Before we wrap up, I'll take one line comment from you and then end up with Professor Shah. We started up with the collaboration. We discussed about what are the challenges and how some solutions can be proposed. What are the analogies we can draw it from the other part of the world, something which is already existing. If you have to give a one line recommendation for this whole proposition, what would be that from your side?
Okay, one line answer. It's very okay.
So the key, I'll say a key takeaway which you want to convey from your side for the audience here.
Okay, for in my views, we have to. I would always prefer to engage the in like users in the translations, building the machine translation or other technologies, because at the end they are going to use, and they can, like I know we had already discussion regarding the mobile phones. Everyone has a mobile phone access, and nowadays we are using LLMs on ChatGPT or other things. So I think they can share some data, but with the consent in the speech recording, like 10 seconds or 20 seconds, and that can be used for the training purposes.
Sharing of data
like
with the consent,
yeah,
so that moderator
yeah,
says can be available. Thank you,
yeah.
and over to you, Professor Shah.
Thanks.
What's
I think promoting national collaboration among the academia, even you can include schools also, with the government and the industry support, that would be one aspect, and also promoting international collaboration with the support of the government and industry. That would be to start with, I guess.
So replicating a model from the government and academic collaboration which is there, and promoting a nationwide university collaboration, exactly. Something which can really help in
long term. That'll be long term.
That would really help us. Okay, so these are the takeaways. I don't think so. I do have a chance for any questions from the audience. Okay. Or Sudhinji, from your side.
you very much. Very interesting insights into how the government works. One thing that I'm talking from the other voice of the language community here is that we see, like Sarika ji just mentioned, we have very little that we spend on R&D, and especially in the language sector, even that would be even a smaller share of that. But we see parallel organization doing similar work, competing work. Would it be better if they join hands together and reach the milestones faster, combining their resources? That is one question from my side. I'll just go to the next question. Second is uh, uh, from a public digital assets in the language sector, we don't have much. So, of course, that's something that would help the community a lot if there is public digital assets that can be accessed by the language community here to grow their business, to explore technologies. So, and we have all the states, you have a language department and they have certain budgets, but they are totally out of sync with each other. All their objectives are different. Maybe if some kind of policy guideline go to them, out of maybe 10, they could choose one of them. And then, so what I'm trying to say is there is a lot of money being spent, but a synergetic approach, an alignment of all the 22 scheduled languages, whatever budget is being allocated to each of the state, or each state is allocating to those departments, if that can be harnessed and create a much better impact, I think, that we would like to know if that is going to happen.
Yeah. Well, yeah, there has to be such framework. Certainly, government can actually help, with the data which is held by academia, government, and industry. If that data can be leveraged, in some common pool where people can access it. Now, there has been some initiative. I think IIT Chennai that data can be contributed to some platform, but people are not coming forward because they want some incentive for the data. If I'm sharing data, I should get data in return, or I should get something. So that kind of ecosystem has to be created by government. They should have a meeting of all the stakeholders in one place and then discuss this in detail. And all possible, for example, let's say I have a corpora which is a multi-university corpora. So I do the Hindi part, and then Tamil does the Tamil translation and then the annotation. So it's a two university corpora. Now it has to be shared. The IPR has to be shared between two. And if I ask my university, I want to do an IPR on it, they don't know how to go about it. So the government has a stake, JNU has a stake, and Tamil Tanjavur has a stake. So a lot of these things have to be resolved actually, legally also. The reason we could not host the entire huge corpora on CDAC server, all these issues came up in JNU. JNU did not allow for this hosting. So we have to resolve all these issues. Otherwise, data becomes stale. If I do the data now and delay in the hosting, it becomes old data. It doesn't become, it's not useful anymore. So such things can be done, and the problem with the government is that the officials are not permanent. They come, they get transferred. One official, you impress upon the official, he looks very happy that you should do it. Suddenly, next day, he's transferred somewhere. The new guy has to be briefed again. So all these problems are in the government. So I hope there should be some more higher up initiative from the government, and everybody sits down and discusses all these problems and brings everybody on board and comes up with some solution, a guideline. That would be something to do about it.
Yeah. What about the two
Silos which are working.
two departments working on the similar technologies, but not connected with each other? That's something that they were probably.
They possibly know that data is there, but they're not able to obtain it.
For example, I don't want to say them, but there are two parallel technologies happening right now.
Machine translation, I know.
Yeah. So, what if they combine? Maybe the result would be.
Well, see, the Bhashini is the homegrown technology for machine translation. Anuvadini is Bing at the bedrock. The Bing is at the bottom, because I've done English to Urdu for Bing, so I know it. and they can't say that they have developed Urdu. I have developed Urdu for them. And then the Udan is Google. So they can't join hands. They're two different companies, right? Now, Bhashini can be improved further. I'm also a project partner for Bhashini for Hindi to Maithili. We're doing it. So Bhashini is homegrown technology, and we should focus on homegrown technology. So we were seeding some startup companies at the Prime Minister's scientific advisor's office in the language-to-language machine translation. And the first instruction we gave them that use your own. You don't use something else, and then we will know about it. So that is the challenge, to show some result, they will perhaps use some X, Y, Z model and show the result, and we are not sure that things are moving. So yeah, they can't join hands, but then Bhashini could be developed further.
Yeah, so that's what the suggestion from the panel came in, and I was not using the word when he mentioned about the Section 8 company. We were like, strengthen the Bhashini further so that the things can be done. Silos was my first question when I said everything is being done in different areas, how one can pull in. And everybody understands there's a commercial interest. And that's why I was saying the joint IP and the commercial interest, even for the universities, like he mentioned for his own university, they were not able to upload the data like that. That is the common problem. While we may easily discuss in the room, I don't see it an immediate solution to it, but we can definitely suggest to the government, at least the collection of the data can be done in a proper way, a framework can be there, some specialized courses can be launched in this area, that's there. Wherever the data pooling can happen, understanding the efforts done by the stakeholders and recognizing their efforts, and I would say suitably complimenting them for their efforts. I would say, I will not say only monetary wise, but that needs to be recognized. All those efforts can be at least done with respect to our geography. Even the individual, the companies, I'm not going to name, it could be global MNC, Indian MNC, or even normal MSME, and like our industries highly focused on the startups and MSMEs, and not like very big companies apart from few. So we need to take care into those things into consideration. So I think a framework where the startups, industry, academia can join, and like he mentioned, while it's a elephant task when he talked about getting all the universities together, he himself knows it's not an easy thing. I was saying, can it be announced in Man Ki Baat from Honorable Prime Minister that the universities should collab, but may or may not be, but we wish for a brighter future. But so those are the things which needs to be tackled, but smaller steps can be taken right away. The companies are doing well. We have our people, we heard, I'm sure Kulkarni talked about in the starting, I was not there, the opportunities which are existing, and what as part from India we have been able to export it to the other part of the world, whether it's Japan or any other country. So we can continue our work in that area. These processes can continue. It will only help us in getting an enabling environment. So I would say research, academia, industry, scale up, pilots, commercialize, and government, please create the enabling environment. That should be the key theme which we should be able to convey to the government. With this, we stop in here. Otherwise, I'm sure Madhu and Vidushi will be staring at me. Thank you. Thank you, Atulji. Thank you. I think we wrap up the session. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sarika ma'am, Professor Jha, and Dr. Ojha for joining us all the way from Galway.